December. Alderperson Blazer will be late. He has requested Alderperson Graff to sit in for him. If we just want to state our names.
Tim DeSorsi.
Adam Hagan.
Jay Catnaugh, Alderperson.
Scott Young.
Jeff Gregg with Northern Steel.
Scott Kellogg, Alderperson.
Lee Graff, Alderperson.
Joe Zerflu. Agenda item number 2, review and consider for approval an extension of an emergency services agreement with the Township of Saratoga.
Is it possible to combine 2 and 3 and talk about them together? or-
Yeah, I would do this. We just put them as so they're just approved separately. But you can,
Okay,
I mean, they're
but
the
2 and
same.
3 are going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to be identical. In 2017, we began covering Saratoga and the Village of Port Edwards for EMS services. It was a 3-year contract. It expires at the end of this year, at the end of 2019, and it was written up, I believe, by July 15th, that both sides were mutually agreeable to the contract. There was a 4-year extension, and we have met with the Village of Port Edwards and the Town of Saratoga, and they would like to take that option of the 4-year extension.
I thought I read in the packet somewhere there was a suggestion that we adjust the rates.
That's item number 4.
That's
Item
number 4.
Okay, all right.
Did you discuss with them the rate adjustment?
We did not. This has been on there. It's written in the contract. Their rate adjustment will be no different than it will be to city residents. So, no, it was not discussed.
Joe.
I can offer that it's still a lot cheaper than it was prior to the city. Even with the rate increase, it's still thousands less than what it was prior to the city providing that service.
Yeah, just to understand my concern.
This isn't
I
a
don't
rate
want to come up and say, okay, we're going to extend your contract 4 years, and oh, by the way, on the back end, after we agree to it, we're going to raise, we're going to pump the raise. So that's the only reason I brought it up.
The retainer fee or the service fee has not, it's spelled out in the contract. This is nothing to do with the service that they're paying, that they're getting from us. It's a user fee. It's what the patient pays for an ambulance call. It has no bearing on the village or the town.
Okay.
It's on the individual.
And it is going up. It's city residents, town, and village residents.
Yes, and that's,
They're billed as a
They're billed at the resident rate, so-
Contract with us.
and when we get into the ambulance rates, I believe you'll see the reasoning behind request number 4. So, but the ambulance rate increase has nothing to do with their fee that they pay to the city annually. That's locked in for the 4 years.
If I can ask Chief, how was the increased call volume? That was not a problem?
No, not at all. I mean, it adds maybe 7-8% overall on our run volume, but then we're down on IFTs a little bit, so it's almost a wash between picking those runs up and the IFTs that we lost. So it's a good service. It has not burdened us in the least. So
An IFT was an interfacility?
yes, Riverview has a ground
Their own,
transport unit
right.
that they're doing the majority of transfers out of the hospital. So yeah, it's not a burden in the police for us.
So if a resident were to ask, what's the benefit of the city partnering with these 2 municipalities on our end? Or is it just a bit more revenue stream? Or
For us, I think it offsets. Tim might be able to answer that better, but it offsets the cost of us doing business on the ambulance end. Because
Okay.
not only the retainer fee covers our expenses, our wear and tear, our supplies, and then we generate the revenue from the ambulance runs themselves. So it ultimately relieves the burden on the taxpayers
Okay.
of the city also.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the 4-year extension of the emergency services agreement with the Township of Saratoga.
I'll second that.
I think we'll do them separate. Okay. Motion and a second to approve the Saratoga contract. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Missed one. Item number 3, review and consider for approval an extension of the emergency services agreement with the Village of Port Edwards. And I would also make a motion to approve that 4-year extension.
I'll second that as well.
Motion and a second to approve the Port Edwards contract. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item number 4 is review and discuss current emergency service ambulance rates and consider an increase to the 2019 rates.
So departments throughout the state go back and forth to the chiefs and they request, what's your rates, and then we kind of look at each other's. I don't know if you have the handout, what Marshfield, Stevens Point, and Wausau, what their rates are as compared to what we're currently charging. We are way, way under the average. And I also have Rhinelander Fire Department here if you'd like to look. They have a survey update. That includes Nakusa Ambulance, Eau Claire Fire, Chippewa Falls, Wausau, which we have, Ashland Fire, and the averages. And on those also, we're way below average on any department that we're compared to. So I believe it's prudent and responsible for us to look at a rate increase in our ambulance rates. And this is, again, this is a user fee for when you utilize the ambulance, you are charged these fees for our services.
Go ahead, Bill.
So I looked at this, reviewed before the meeting here, and I think the proposed rates are completely fair. It looks like we're even still under compared to other municipalities, so this would kind of put us middle of the road, so.
And that's what we were looking for.
That totally makes sense to me, especially when we're right now far below even the averages, let alone the top end, so.
I just wondering, maybe this is better addressed to Tim, but is there a, necessity for this, or what's?
Well, I mean, I think it's we have not raised rates, for a number of years. I can't remember the last rate increase we had, and as part of it, and I think it's kind of one of those things where you look at it, as obviously whatever, we budget for revenue, it offsets the tax levy. So as the expenditure side of the budget grows, you kind of want to keep pace on the revenue side. And I think this is a good mechanism to kind of look at, what is the average and what's, reasonable. It also should be noted that for a lot of our patients that are on Medicare, this rate doesn't affect them because Medicare only recognizes a certain portion of the rate, and so you just end up writing off a lot of it for the Medicare rate. So, but for the ones that have insurance and stuff like that, obviously we'll see a revenue increase for that. But I'll say this, that our ambulance revenue has gone down a little bit because of the decrease in their facility transfers and stuff like that. So they're monitoring it. So I concur that we're probably long overdue for a rate increase in the ambulance rates, and I think using some comparables and kind of looking at staying within that average is prudent. Otherwise, you get so far behind that when you do try to catch up, it is a dramatic increase. So.
Just to be clear, do you want to run down the category just to make sure I completely understand all the different categories in which we bill?
Sure. And to be clear, here is a LifeQuest survey. We use AMB, but Rhinelander actually, I've been looking at this for years, so there's some other services and what they charge also. And there's Nakusa, and I think that's fair also there, right in the region, and we're still even less than Nakusa in most categories, as you would see according to LifeQuest and what I was provided by Rhinelander in their rate survey update. But getting into the categories, you have BLS. A BLS is a basic call where we don't use any advanced interventions, any paramedic skills, any procedures, any medications. It's just a basic, maybe a fall or a cut where we bandage, we splint, but we do not start any IVs, we don't push any medications, we don't do any cardiac monitoring or invasive procedures. So that would be a BLS rate. And then the BLS-NR, there's a different rate for non-residents. And as we talked before, Saratoga and Port Edwards in the Village of Beer and get the resident rate, being that they are under contract with us. So that's the difference on the NR, that's a non-resident. ALS is a run where we used paramedic skills, whether it's advanced procedures or medications would dictate a ALS run. It could be a medication we push, it could be a 12 lead, it could be defibrillating, any certain skill we use or medication we use above and beyond the basic would bump it into an ALS. An ALS 2 is where we give 3 separate medication pushes, or on a transfer if they're on a continuous infusion. They're on an IV pump with medications continuously infusion. So it could be we give a pain med, we give a antiemetic for nausea, and we come back to the pain med, or cardiac arrest where we're pushing different medications that would trigger it to an ALS2. Anybody that we intubate or is on a vent is an ALS2 rate. And then again, the non-resident is a different rate than our residents. And the SCT is strictly interfacility transfers, and that is a specialty care transport. And that is somebody we take from Riverview, and we do most Riverview's Category 1 transfers, somebody that's in having an active heart attack, or for some reason a trauma call, they've ended up at Riverview, and they didn't bypass Riverview to a level 2 trauma center. We'll intubate or transport patients that are having an active heart attack and they're on multiple drips. They're ventilated, they're on maybe a blood product, and that would trigger it to be a specialty care transporter, that SCT rate. So those are kind of the categories we have. And then the mileage, we bill for mileage, loaded miles with the patient. And like Tim said, these rate increases will have, I want to say approximately 60% of our patients are Medicare patients, and in our region you have a Medicare allowable rate. We can't charge above and beyond the Medicare allowable rate. That's either wrote off or wrote down, however you want to term it. The patient's just responsible for 20% of the Medicare allowable rate, regardless of what our bill is. And same with Medicaid patients.
I guess my one question to the both of you is it seems like our rate increases, whether deemed appropriate or not, according to the other municipalities, it seems like the resident rate actually went higher than the non-resident rate in most cases.
You mean percentage-wise?
Just dollar amount wise. You know, that's the thing, is a rate increase, if it went by percentages, would be easier to understand.
Well, the difference between the resident and a non-resident, there's a $115 difference. And I think on the proposed rate, there's a BLS, there's a $115 difference. On the ALS, there's a $115 difference. On the...
Oh, so you try to keep it, that's what I was trying to figure out,
Yes.
the numbers to see what...
That's what it is
was the
now.
reasoning here.
That's what it currently is. There's a $115 difference between the resident and non-resident rate. And then there's also a mileage difference, and I kept that $115 consistent on the BLS, ALS, ALS2. Unless my math is off.
No, it actually looks right.
Well, I
didn't
guess,
notice that, so you pointed it out.
yeah, I mean, I guess my comment is that, you know, like, let's say the BLS, all right, you go up, just quick math off the top of my head, looks like $253 for the resident, but you only go up $242. You know what I mean? I understand the idea of keeping it 115 off, but it seems like we're actually, in most cases, the resident actually gets charged slightly more than the non-resident on the increase, not overall, but on the increase. You know, like in your ALS 1, it, like I said, just quick math, looks like $277, where the increase to the non-resident would actually be only $230. 223.
788.
You know,
So 1,900, but it's a $115 difference, and I think yeah, I don't know. It was my understanding there was a $115 difference between. Maybe it's
Non-residential
$125.
difference is $113.50, $113.50, so.
So it was 125. It looks like it wasn't quite the same across the board either. It's like ALS
Right.
1 and non-resident on the current rate is 155 difference.
Yeah, that can't be right. That has to be wrong on my end, because it's consistent on what we charge with AMB currently. It's what is it, Tim, 113.50?
Yeah, that's what I have for non-residential.
I took these numbers off of our old numbers that I have at the station,
Oh.
and not what we currently is charging, and it's a difference of, and it's consistent per category. So I guess here I kept it consistently $115 more. And just to be clear, Medicare, Medicaid does not recognize the non-resident rate, period. They're written off. It comes down to private insurance and the individual responsibility. But I think right now on the proposed rate, it's consistent, $115 more per category.
Just because it's up there to do it on 10.
So, basically, Chief, when you respond to a call and let's say you transferred someone like a specialty care transport, I know maybe no two runs are the same, but if you're doing a lot more for one than you are the other, they still just get that flat $13.75
For the
rate.
month.
Like, so you don't
Yes.
actually
Yep.
bill, okay.
It's loaded mile too.
It's what?
Loaded mile?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
But the rate, yes, whatever category they fall in, and we're not even determining that anymore. Our billing company is.
That's right.
They do the runs. They categorize how they're going to bill. They're experts at, knowing what they can bill at, and they're going to bill at the highest allowable rate. So.
This will give Lee some time. Is anyone?
Just give me a quick second, right?
Yeah, no, take your time. Anyone else have anything, I guess, they want to add or ask?
Yes, there's just one more question on this. It says that also taking into consideration that Stevens Point adds medication procedures equipment under their base rate. They do not have a critical care licensure like the other two comparable departments. So where do we stand in that, and what's the difference between if we do or don't do that? And
If you look at that license class, there's certain services that will bill for medications or procedures that they use equipment on, splinting, whatever, medications, and we roll that all into our base rate. So
Okay.
there's no added cost for this medication or this piece of equipment we use that we may have to discard, or disposable equipment. So it's all rolled into our base rate.
okay.
Just asking the question is, from your ALS 1 to non-resident, from resident to non-resident, the difference is $40. So we'd actually be charging $40 more to the resident than what we would to the non-resident.
I guess what I'm getting at here is our current rates. I don't know if that's what AMB is charging right now, because we have a city policy where it's, what is it, Tim, $113.50 is what the current one is. It should be $113.50 above our current rates.
And that's a policy
It's,
driven 100.
Well, what it is that we set the rates for each category, and then there's just a non-resident differential, what we call it, so it's just an add-on to whatever are the resident-approved rates, $113.50 is just added on to that base rate. So theoretically, you're not really approving non-resident rates, you're approving an upcharge of $113.50. That's the current rate. So no matter what the rate is, if it's a non-resident, we add on $113.50 onto that base rate for a non-resident rate. And then there's a mileage, non-resident mileage rate.
And I guess what I
That's how it's
proposed on
figured.
this one, I really didn't look, I just went off of, we have an SOG in there, it had our rates in there. I just proposed we move the non-resident rate to 115 more per category.
So on this sheet right here, really if we were to approve this today and go forward with these rates, the non-resident rates on here wouldn't be
You wouldn't
necessarily
approve
what
the
they were. We would
non-resident
be approving new resident rates and then sticking with the 115 additional. per-
Yes.
Yeah, that's the practice.
All right. So this was just more informational. It wouldn't be necessarily $890 for a BLS non-resident. It would be,
Yeah, that's what it would be.
or it would be for that
It'd be
one, but-
$775 for a resident and $890 for
Okay.
a non-resident. And same, ALS is $900 for a resident and $1,015 for a non-resident. That's
Yeah.
kind of the proposed
Got
rates,
it.
where it's consistent. I just pulled those numbers, like Tim said, they haven't been adjusted for, I don't know when, and that's just what we have at the station.
Yeah, I guess I look at it as, if we're gonna upcharge our resident $40, we should upcharge the non-resident and not keep the 113.15.
So you're saying it should just be a
It should be
percentage?
equal. Well, I don't, and that's why I wanted to ask, and that's why I'm bringing this
Yeah,
up.
no problem.
And the only difference I had in my, or the math I was doing in my head, it seemed like between the BLS and ALS rates, they were only $10 different. So like the non-resident would only go up $10 less than what so we're actually charging the residents of Rapids $10 more than what we would charge a non-resident for the same service, comparatively speaking, on the rates. So what I'm saying is, it's like, on the ALS service, it's actually $40 additional. So we'd rather, but that's why I was asking, so is there a policy that states that it's 113, or is that a standard practice that we do for a county?
That was what whenever we adjusted rates last, it was always just that non-residential upcharge of $113.50, but that doesn't mean that we can't change the methodology of calculating that non-resident rate either. I mean, you could sit there and say, you could either keep it as a, you could set instead of doing the upcharge, you could just set two different rates, non-resident rate based on each category, and then if you want to keep that differential or the same increase or percentage, however you want to do it, that's,
Do other departments do a percentage though? It looks like they're consistent with more of a standard extra charge, right?
Yeah, so they're at $150, just looking at Lake Stevens Point. That's actually $200 for the ALS service rate, but it's $150, $150, $200. The other one is $150, $100, $200, $200, $150, $150, $150. So like Wausau just does $150 over the rate between the
Right.
resident and non-resident.
And that's kind of what, I guess I wouldn't put too much credence in my numbers on the non-resident rates here, because I believe we're charging $113.50 is what A&B is charging right now.
Because this is consistent with, it seems, the practice of the other cities, and the main goal here is to get this to just on level or on pace with them, I'll make a motion to go with the new proposed rates for current emergency service ambulance rates to the, I think, 2019 rates. Cover the rates. Catch that?
So you're approving the rates, and then, are you gonna approve like the individual non-resident rates, or are you just gonna approve a non-residential differential or a surcharge?
I would say we go with these proposed rates on the sheet. That
Just
was what my
okay, just
motion
like
would
that?
be, Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
So are you actually approving all the rates or just the resident?
I think you said all the rates.
Right, I want to make sure, because I would.
So,
okay.
that's a good point. Yeah, good. Let me clarify and read. That's my motion. Just the the residence rates and maintaining the extra, and you said it was gonna be 115 on each service charge
And
for
that's what the
non-residents.
proposal shows in here. so-
Right, right, so yeah, that would be,
Yeah, you wouldn't actually have to amend your motion, because that's what you said.
Okay.
That's what I picked up.
all right.
So, I'm sure if there's confusion there.
I actually would be in favor, just to be clear, I will vote this down, but the only reason is I'm actually in favor of the current proposed residence rates, but an increase to non-residence rates up to $150 to keep you consistent with Marshfield Point, Wausau.
That would be
everybody
fine
else.
too, if you want to do that.
Second.
You can amend your motion.
So I'll amend the motion then, because I do agree with that, to go with the proposed resident rates with an additional 150 for non-residents.
I agree to the amendment.
There we go.
That's a good point, Lee. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, no, that's a good catch.
Joe,
Yes.
but can we do that if you just passed the agreement with cities that are down here, and we said we're going to increase it the same amount? Didn't we just pass that?
They're charged
They're
resident
charged
rates.
resident rates because they
Doesn't
contract with the city.
Okay.
Well,
They're not, they don't get the non-resident.
what we passed was a contract to cover
Yeah.
the specific township and village,
Right.
and this is what were you gonna bill the patient?
All right.
Not the billing to the municipality. like
I was
that.
just going back to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah.
That's what we thought at first too. Okay, there's a motion, a second, to approve the rates with the adjustments. Did you get all that, Tim?
Of 150 to non-resident?
To approve the
Yep.
proposed residential rates with a non-resident
Differential.
different surcharge of $150.
Yep.
That sounds good.
Yep.
And the mileage you're all right with then?
If you feel it's appropriate.
Yep.
So any other questions or additional discussion? So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 3-0.
All right.
I see what
Thank
you
you.
meant by mileage.
Item number 5 is considered for approval an application for a $30,000 Disney grant to facilitate phase 1 of the zoo project. I think that's you, Joe.
Yeah, so in your packet, there's the referral there. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a project we've been working on largely with donated funds. And we'd like to try to stretch those donated funds as far as possible and use those donated funds as leverage in this grant application to try to get an additional $30,000 in donation from the Disney grant.
So is this something you're asking for us to approve the application to apply for it?
To apply for, correct?
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it is a budgeted project, so there's no negative ramifications of that. It just allows us to stretch those donations into other parts of the zoo.
No, I think it's actually completely appropriate. Anytime we can find different grant applications that we can apply for miscellaneous projects, I think it's completely appropriate. So I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion on the item? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Jake? Something else I wanted to pass.
Oh, no, sorry.
Item number 6 is request permission for the City of Wisconsin Rapids to apply for Wisconsin assessment monies to support Northern Steel Casting's environmental investigation on their property located at 330 8th Avenue South.
That one, right, this is me. So again, in your packet, there's a summary of the request along with some background. Basically what it comes down to is the state receives some federal funds every year for environmental assessments. And then the state can pass that along, and it's intended to go towards businesses that are closing or closed, in more specifically industrial sites. Northern Steel Castings unfortunately falls into that category as they shut down operations over the last couple of years, and they are looking to ultimately sell that property. One of the hurdles generally in selling an industrial site is the question on what is the environmental situation there. So this would basically pay 100% of the cost of going through the necessary environmental studies on it. Does not deal with cleanup at this stage. It's really, again, just the study on the background. In talking with the DNR, ultimately Northern Steel could apply on their own, but it actually helps in their underwriter's review if the municipality is on board with the application as well. So basically what's being proposed is that the city would apply on behalf of them, and then it would be a pass-through. So there wouldn't be any city funds that would go towards it. And again, it's 100% on the DNR funding, so if there's no funds from Northern Steel, but it would just help facilitate, hopefully, the transfer of that property and eventually either reuse or cleanup of that site. I did ask Mr. Gregg to attend just because obviously he's the property owner. So if you have any specific questions, he is here. But again, just really looking for permission to apply for the grant.
Would this cover the full assessment, or is this up to 30,000?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Is it based on the amount of bore samples, based on the amount of, widespread area, linear footage away from buildings, all that included, or?
Maybe I should have clarified that better. It's not a cash grant, meaning Northern Steel doesn't receive any funding at all. Basically, the DNR is just, they'll contract with a third party to do the assessment, and it'll cover up to 30%, so, or up to 30,000 in value. So until the phase 1 is done, you don't know what the phase 2 necessity is, so I can't say, yes, this will 100% cover phase 1 and phase 2. I can tell you that it would for sure cover a phase 1 assessment, just based on what the city has encountered in the past.
And the reason I ask is I want to make sure that we're doing, is 30,000 the max?
Yes.
Okay, because I want to make sure that we do a good enough assessment to give your company a really good idea of what's going on with the bore samples. And we've fallen short of bore sampling in the past, and I want to make sure that the $30,000 is appropriate, but this is the max, so.
Yeah, this would be basically the way the application is phrased is you're applying for these services. You don't even put a dollar amount in the grant application. You just ask for a phase 1 and a phase 2 assessment. And then the DNR will, again, contract it out and cover up to that amount.
Is this assessment in correlation with the brownfield grants and other grants that the DNR provides for site cleanup?
It's a slightly separate project or pot of money because it is federal funds that the state receives. A lot of the cleanup funds are actually state funds that they have set aside for cleanup. But obviously, if you go through and assess and you find contamination, that's going to line you up for that next stage of potentially applying for a grant for cleanup.
I just wanted to make sure.
And it does say it's dependent on the EPA.
Overall applicants.
Right.
Yep, so that's partially why I'm recommending the city get involved, just to help strengthen the request.
Oh, for sure.
Because obviously it's an attractive pot of money with having no match.
I think a second reason why I think it makes sense for the city to participate, that property is in the downtown TID, and as we just finished yesterday, the annual review of the Joint Review Board status of all the TIFs that we or TIDs in the city. Any value we can recapture on that property as it's cleaned up and ready for reuse will be to the benefit of the downtown TID, so we're not having to use general fund tax levy to pay off like the West Grand Avenue bonds that we borrowed against the TID. So we've got some time left on the TID, but that property was identified in the TID back when it was created in 2006 or 7. So I think anything we can help accelerate the cleanup process and removal of the buildings that are standing there today, as well as any remediation that might become necessary. And maybe you could just give us a quick sense of what the timeline is, including this or absent this, in terms of your other cleanup efforts on the property.
Unfortunately, we do not have the funds for demolition right now, and I can't say for sure whether we will have them or not. And on the application, I noticed there's a spot, question, does the city is the applicant. Does the applicant plan to acquire the site? And that's no, is checked. But we are, I just want to say that we're completely open to just turning the property over to the city. I don't see any future use for it, as far as, obviously the company is not going to exist anymore, and I don't see any use for it, so. we would be willing just to turn it over.
I think that's beneficial for us to know in terms of future grant applications. The DNR's got a few programs, as I think was kind of the request or the information that was brought up earlier. So I think we thought that might be the case, and it's helpful to know.
Would that weigh bearing on the grant application? And I apologize, I can't find it in the grant application as far as which box you're exactly speaking of.
I didn't provide the actual grant
I was just gonna
application
say,
in what was provided in the packet. Does it weigh one way or the other? No. Basically, the difference is that then we need a site access agreement with Northern Steel, so that obviously the DNR consultants can access the site. Our resolution is just basically supporting it. If we acquired it, then we would have to be granting access. So that's really the main difference as far as this program looks at it. For cleanup, I think there is maybe some merit for city acquiring it if it comes to that, but again, we didn't want to go down that road at this point.
And of course, we're gonna wanna have the assessment done before we even think about.
Right. Know what we would be getting
Right.
ourselves into.
So, I think with that being said, I'd approve the City of Wisconsin Rapids to apply for the Wisconsin assessment monies to support Northern Steel Casting's environmental investigation on their property located at 330 8th Avenue South.
I'm sorry, that's a typo on my referral. It should be 9th Avenue South.
Not Avenue South.
Actually, your referral was correct, the agenda was wrong.
Okay, I'm reading now.
Your referral says 9.
Did the agenda.
Oh, actually, I have it wrong in one spot and right in one spot on the
yeah.
referral, so, yeah.
I did copy and paste from your.
I apologize. I get excited when I type.
Oh, that's where it is now.
I'll second the motion. Motion is second to approve. Anything further?
Just in clarity, I think we should have some conversation about, with Northern Steel to make sure that we're on the same page as far as the city goes and what our succession planning is, if there is any, or we plan to move forward with the site plan. Obviously, I don't know at this time if we would put in a stipulation of full disclosure, if that's even appropriate. Because we're operating and we're submitting grants, or now does the disclosure of the findings go to Northern Steel, or does it go to the city, or both?
My understanding is it would go to both.
Okay.
Because
and
we're the
then-
applicant and they're the property owner, so, and again, it's government funds being spent. So
Right.
it would be accessible to both.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was clear for our side, looking at in the future, that we would have all the information needed to move forward if, whatever the future of that site is.
And I think to that end, now that we have a good clarity around the intentions, I adamant that might be the case in terms of your exit on the property, we can help facilitate conversations with potential developers, knowing the phase 1 exploration and then what phase 2 might require, I think. So in terms of sequencing, I would say we would have that conversation around the time.
I just want to make sure that it doesn't go to Northern Steel, and as the applicant, do we get, so it's full disclosure,
Yeah,
so it's-
everyone's aware.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries 3-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Item number 7, consider for approval resolution number 9, amending the 2019 budget.
Okay. Basically, this is a resolution we do this time every year, and basically, for the majority of it, a lot of it's the same, consistent funds being carried forward, where we have grant funds that are restricted for a specified purpose, or if we have donations that are specified for a specific purpose, and those funds are unspent at the end of the year. Basically, we carry them over and reappropriate them in the new budget year for that specified purpose. I tried to attach explanations for the majority of the items in the back. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Just questioning,
Sure.
the general fund, those are the different account numbers that you have.
Right.
That's where the money sits currently because of the budget that was passed last fall, is that correct?
It's basically what we have for unspent funds in the 2018 and now we're carrying those funds on, reappropriately adding them on to the 2019 approved budget.
So are you carrying them forward? And I apologize because looking at this information, it's definitely hard to read through.
Mhm.
But are we carrying those over to the exact same funds?
Right.
So the city property allocation, just as an example.
City property outlay?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're just moving it forward to,
The current year, it's staying in the same account number. So in 2018, we budgeted 5,000, we do that annually. And then if those funds aren't spent, we carry them forward. We budgeted 5,000 in 2019. So then basically, if this is approved, then you would have $10,000 in that account. And then usually those go out for some special project at some point, you know, and then basically that would come back as a finance referral to use those funds for a specified purpose.
so as far as the Aquatics River Fund, the East River
Okay.
Bank bike path, that those funds are actually staying with the East River Bank?
Right, the aquatics facility, those basically, the bulk of that is unspent bond proceeds from the 2017 bonds that we issued. And so basically we're carrying those forward and that'll get appropriated into that account for, you know, for that facility. The East River Bank Bike Path Phase 1, those are funds that were unspent at year end. And if you turn to the back in the explanation for that $397,000 carry forward, I have it broken out what the specified uses are for those funds, or proposed. Yankee General Contractor, based on engineering department estimates that we have estimated $280,000, still payments left on that project to the contractor. MSA Professional Services of $7,820. And then other costs to complete, we have the Phase 1 furnishing, which is going to be coming up here on the finance agenda of $79,379, and then the remaining $30,000 is for the installation of those furnishings, because the quotes for those furnishings do not include installation. But I do believe the plan is to have our crews install that. Is that correct, Joe?
Correct.
Yeah. So then that would fund the labor and equipment from our crews to install those furnishings.
So the Phase 1 part of it, the MSA Professional Services, $7,800, that's an estimate, or that's a bill we already have, and we're just looking to transfer this to the 2019 budget and pay for it? Or is that expected services for the Phase 1 project? I thought that was completed except the furnishings.
Yeah, it's completed except for the furnishings. Is that, are those funds that remain to be paid? I'm not sure.
Yeah, those are estimated costs to be incurred.
Costs to be
As of
incurred, yeah.
12/31, that's
Right.
what Joe gave me as an estimate of costs remaining open on the project.
So the $397,846 to total Janke, was it Yankee?
Yankee.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
Yankee, MSA, those, the total is actually accounted for to finish the project.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
And it's not over and above what the project scope was of the budget?
No.
The 370, or
That's correct.
397. This is budgeted, I issued. We
Yeah.
haven't dispersed yet to these
Correct.
contractors.
Correct.
Okay.
And the surplus came from, I think as Tim said, it was like the original bond issuance, and this is the balance that remains
this
on the
is-
original
But
bond.
it's spent, is what I'm saying.
Right, I think that's what the engineering department has indicated. Those were payments, like there's construction management for the
Right.
landscaping work that hasn't closed out, and there's some other items that they still.
Yeah, I'm just asking if, is the bond, the remainder of the bond left from 2018, will it cover the expenses this spring in order to finish that project? And
Definitely.
make sure that there's not additional expenses?
There's not
or that-
additional, I mean, there may be some even turn back dollars where we'll have surplus, but we don't know until the furnishing stuff is installed, and that's what Tim was saying, based upon our crew and the labor that'll be necessary in that. So
Right.
at this point, no, there's no cost overrun. In fact, it might be a little bit under budget.
Right, I just want to make sure, I mean, I understand the
Sure.
idea of the carryover, I just want to make sure that the costs are appropriate
Mhm.
to what's remaining left on the contract that we signed.
Yes.
replacement fund,
Yep.
is that the 484?
Okay, yeah, for fire department?
Yep.
In the 2019 budget, because they budgeted for the replacement of the fire engine number 6, I do believe it is. So we budgeted the full amount, and then I estimated what our carryover would be in the budget. So I have that as budgeted carryover, and then the $240,000 difference between what they estimated was going to be added on to the 2019 debt issue. And basically what it is that our actual carryover was $474,000, so I'm just adjusting the budget to actual to reflect that actual carry forward of those funds. That's why it's a negative.
Our equipment replacement for the engine came out of the equipment replacement fund.
Yeah, they have their own
I thought
fire
they
department
had,
vehicle.
well, they're right, but I thought they had their own fund. I apologize.
And we had to borrow for the balance too.
Right.
Because the fund didn't have quite as much to cover the.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it doesn't come out of equipment replacement for public works, right? They're
Right.
No, they're
separate out.
separate. They're separate accounts. The fleet, you'll
I
see
just
the
wanted
fleet
to be sure.
equipment below that. That's the DPW fleet equipment replacement fund, the $898,000.
I'll make a motion then to approve resolution number 9, amending the 2019 budget.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second to approve it. Do you want me to?
No, I'm trying to figure out, the fire department vehicles, it says it's, $9,600 in the negative, but I don't see that reflected in the, unless this is the difference between the estimated, the 484.
Right. Right, so they have $484,000 already approved in their 2019 budget for
Yep.
vehicles, because that was the estimated carryover.
Yep.
The actual carry was the 474, so basically you're reducing that equipment to reflect the actual amount.
So we'll
That's
have to
their
bond for an additional $10,000 is what you're saying?
No.
To get the
No, actually,
engine replacement?
Well, the actual replacement engine's coming in under what was budgeted, so we'll be,
Oh,
so we
okay.
won't need any additional.
That's, I guess, what I was,
Yeah.
in the building acquisition fund, what was that? Can someone,
That is in the Public Works Construction Fund, and that's where funds were put aside over a number of years for acquisition of buildings. So we've used that to acquire some buildings. We've used it to demo East Town Plaza and things like that. So, and basically those are just unspent monies that have been accumulated over the years for building acquisition.
Alright, there is a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item number 8, review and consider for approval a state municipal agreement for a state-led small STP urban project for West Jackson Street from West Riverview Expressway to the Jackson Street Bridge.
So this is the same program that is helping the city pay for the East Grand Avenue project. The STP Urban project is, we're unique, our area is unique because we've pooled our resources with surrounding municipalities. And we can apply as a group for projects, so it's kind of a, I guess, a democratic process. We try to evaluate regionally. Buren is not in the group. They've chosen not to be over the years, but Town of Grand Rapids, Town of, City of Nakusa, Village of Port Edwards, City of Wisconsin Rapids, and there may be another town that is in our urban group. Classified roadways, roadways that get a certain volume of traffic, are eligible to, for some partial funding from the state. The city applied for the Jackson Street project in two components, east and west, and the west has been approved to be considered, or approved to be awarded, if the city approves the document. And it's 80% funding, it's about $5.4 million project, and the city's costs would be about $1.7 million on a $5.4 million project. If we don't approve this, then the city would be on the hook for the whole project, and we'd likely remove it from the capital improvement plan, until which time we can figure out how to pay for it.
Is this, anybody can apply for this as long as they're a part of this urban group? The other municipalities, they can apply for?
Yeah, so as a group, we prioritize our projects. We rank, I
Okay.
think, the top 5 projects in our urban area, and we submit those to the state for the DOT's review. The DOT then will ultimately choose the projects in the urban area. We're not guaranteed to get a project. It depends on the state's pot, and how other urban groups and municipalities apply. So it's not like every other year we'll get a project, but we always try to put our larger projects there. These projects tend to be, this grant program, because there's federal dollars involved, tends to have a lot more administration, tends to have a lot more costs in design work and the planning and the construction oversight. And so we try to select the really big projects where it makes sense, our concrete streets, for example. There have been a few projects that, for example, a few years ago, Nakusa submitted a project, Point Bass, and when they were awarded this particular, just like the paperwork, the document we have now for that agreement to review, they took a look. It was cheaper for them to build the project in-house than it would have been to design and administrate it through this program, because it was a asphalt street with no other utility. So as an urban group, we have to select the projects carefully as well.
Most of the towns don't have any real, to that point, don't have any real qualifying projects. One of the more recent projects that was selected that ended up going back into the pool was 54 to Commerce Drive in the 48th Street in the Rapids East Industrial Park. That project ended up getting turned back, hence why we have East Grand Avenue. So it's the same program that East Grand Avenue was funding this year. It just happens to be on the heels of each other. I think to Joe's point, it's very rare. Part of it was based upon state available funds. There wasn't enough funds to do East Grand Avenue when we wanted to do it previously, or when we thought we were going to do it, not necessarily when we wanted to do it, when we thought. And now this one is pretty close on the heels. And I don't know, Joe, I think Joe Exit had mentioned something about potentially a year of a delay in this.
Yeah, we're trying to push this back to a 2023 construction, just again to try to make sure that we don't have too many successive years of really big projects. We are committed to our, to having a construction work group, and so we do have a number of sanitary sewer, storm sewer, water main projects that our own labor force performs. And we want to make sure that that we have the right amount of work for them, that there's not too much one year and not enough the next. And this project was originally planned for 2022 in this ask, but because of the cycle, the financial cycle, we're able to push it back. So that's what we're proposing as a 2023 construction project.
And this is the West Riverview Expressway to Jackson Street Bridge?
This is Jackson Street, West Jackson Street.
Jackson Street.
Yeah, from the bridge to West Grand.
Okay.
I'm sorry, to the West Riverview Expressway.
Or West Grand, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
So it includes the stretch from City Hall to the Expressway.
Yes.
Oh, which is West Grand.
Right.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Right.
Or Jackson Street.
Or Jackson Street.
It's Jackson,
Right,
Jackson Street
yeah,
here and then
yeah.
West Grand and, yeah.
Depends on
Yeah,
which side of the
it's-
intersection.
Right.
We've got a few of those in town. in the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it First or is it Baker or is it?
Right. With that being said, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Motion and a second to accept the agreement. Any further discussion? Aye. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item number 9, review and consider for approval the quotes to purchase the furnishings for the East River Bank Project Phase 1.
So this is a little bit of continuance of the carryover resolution, but the furnishings were included in Phase 1, and we were trying to purchase them at the end of the year, but there were some issues with the manufacturer has a number of dealers, and there was some changes that happened or were happening as far as their dealer network, and so it wasn't clear who we were supposed to be purchasing them from. So we were unable to actually order them prior to the end of the year. As a result, because we're in a new year, new budget, we needed the carryover resolution in order to make this ask. And given that there's about a 12-week turnaround in order to get these furnishings, we'd like to get them ordered. It's about $79,600 for those furnishings. The information on them should be in your packet. We will be moving some of the picnic tables from Sandlot Park over to the shade structure, just to offer some furnishings in the park since we've got that shade structure, just to help complete it. And then once the new furnishings come, we'll move those back. So they're not going to be quite the match that we had planned initially, but once these furnishings get here, we'll get them spread throughout the park and then all the way along the Phase 1 project.
So the picnic tables that are in the shelter area at Sandlot, so a lot of people, I know even my family, we've rented that out several times. How long are they going to be gone, where that's going to affect?
So they won't be gone. What we're going to do is there's some tables that we have transferred from storage to various events and then back to storage. We're going to move those because they're more suitable for an undercover type area. So we don't anticipate having much, if any, of a loss of seating at Sandlot.
Okay.
We're only going to move probably 3 tables just to make some offerings at
Right.
Demet's.
Right.
What's the difference between what we got in the packet as opposed to what we got today? Besides money. The carryover resolution said the furnishing should be $79,379. But I'm not coming up with that when I add the bench or everything else from Modern Design Site Furnishings. So that's 72 plus 70, or 27. So why did we approve a carryover resolution of furnishings for 79,000 if the estimates don't come up there?
There should be 3 quotes?
4.
Four.
This one too. Yeah, there's the one we got.
3 in the packet.
Oh, the
3 in
So
the
I handed
packet.
out the extra one today.
And then, yeah.
That wasn't included in the packet.
So the 1244, the 2760.
So you have the-
Oh, no, there's,
You have the one for $72,640.
Yep.
Okay. Then you have the Wausau made of $2,941. You have the $1,244 from Pilot Rock, and then the one I handed out just today, Wausau made, for $2,760. And then if you subtract off little bit of the sales tax that are included on two of the quotes, you get to 79,379.
So the quote you sent in the package from Wausau Made is different than the one you
Yes.
just gave me?
Yes.
Well, there's two,
But
There's two from Wausau Made.
oh, this isn't replacing that one?
No, no.
So there's actually 10 benches that we're getting instead of 5?
It looks like these, one of these, 5 of these are backless, and then the others are just signified as benches.
Yeah, the backless benches and then,
yeah, they are different model numbers, it looks like.
I thought this was in replace of the one that was in our package.
no, it just
This
wasn't
is a-
included in the packet. That's
Okay.
why I gave it to you.
That would be the difference of the,
Yeah.
that's why I was wondering why the numbers didn't add up. And I was just doing it quick in my head, and I was like, we're a couple thousand short.
Oh, you were right.
Okay, I apologize.
Entertain a motion. That's what we wanna do.
Yeah. And that's what we just did the carryover resolution for, right? So, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the quotes to purchase the furnishings for the East Riverbank Project Phase 1.
For cost, for 79,379.
Yes. Yep.
I'll second the motion. There's a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item number 10, consider for approval a Class B liquor license application and a Class B beer license application for Hokkaido Chia Lai Wang, sole proprietor, for the premises located at 3310 8th Street South. Please pardon my pronunciation if that was not correct. It's Hokkaido, I think. Go ahead.
So, I have a thought on this. I talked to the city clerk before this, and we have 2 liquor license lists. This would bring it down to 1. And also, it seems like there might be some work that needs to be done in the building before this would even open. So I guess my concern would just be if that anybody else is trying to start something in town, and we approve this liquor license, and then this building sits empty for a while, when it could be being used by someone else. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm still in favor of it. I think it's a great location. If they want to redo it, it's a part of 8th Street that they could have a great business there, but I did just want to throw that out there. That would be concerning to me if we approve this and then it sits empty for most of 2019.
They have to reapply every year.
Right.
You would, yeah.
It's only 8
Right.
first. Yeah.
So I mean, if
For
we ran
renewal,
it.
but this is a new one, so that's, I think, the point you're.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because renewals are automatic.
I haven't seen the council deny a renewal of a liquor license, so I suspect, not that it's implied, but I think some folks feel that if they get a liquor license granted, they're probably entitled to renewal unless there's problems.
I got you.
I didn't know the county sold the building. I saw some folks painting out there yesterday. I had asked the county board member, I was just out here, he didn't remember the county selling it, so I don't know if it's some deal. It's in front of the Rapids Inn and Suites, which I think a lot of folks have wanted to see it torn down, and I guess I'm glad that, I didn't know that they were applying for it, so it's possibly good news to see it occupied.
Right.
Curious to know what type of business they're doing to operate in there.
And just to clarify, if we do approve this license today, it would expire June 30th. It would come back up for renewal, and then we would have an option again then to not approve that renewal if they're not
That's
making
my
progress.
understanding, yeah.
Okay.
Every license has to be renewed, but I don't know if you get the ability to.
Because we had one that came through before.
But that was, they didn't pay their taxes, so that was a new one. I know what you're talking
Right.
about.
And the new body
And
shop.
discussing it then, I think we need a reason not to renew.
Exactly, that's what it was.
But we don't necessarily, but we can deny initially.
Right, that was my understanding, that's why I'm bringing this one up, is I just would hate to give them a liquor license and then they can renew without us having any say, and then it's just occupying one of the last 2 licenses we have as a city.
if they weren't open and using it when it came up for renewal, I mean, I would think that would be
It didn't have a date on it. I don't think our application or the state's applications require a date, do they?
To open? No. That, I mean, there's an, because, I mean, with
Says
their,
319.
with there being
Like the day after the.
only 2 liquor licenses left, I mean, if we give this one up, I mean, people might renew just because they don't want to give that up.
Yeah, but in light of the building sitting vacant for a number of years.
Right.
It could offer an opportunity for a business to give it a facelift and.
Definitely, yeah, I agree. I would just be worried that maybe it takes another year and then, so I'd almost wish that they would have had the building done before they apply, and that's kind of what worries me with, we fill one of these last spots and then they're just occupying that license until they get done in 20, like, what if it's 2020? We don't know really what they're doing, so. And my only thought would be is, not that I wouldn't want to see this business come in there and be successful, but maybe they can reapply once they have that there, but.
I don't think anybody's gonna put any money into a building if they don't have a guarantee that they're gonna
That's
have
true,
a liquor
yeah.
license.
That's what I was just trying to think about, is if that's appropriate.
You know, if they don't have some type of assurances that they're gonna be able to
Right.
sell liquor.
No, that's a good point.
Well, generally your applicant is here. I'm surprised maybe they weren't advised to be here, so maybe they could be at the council meeting. I can't remember if it's final say at the committee level or if it's, I think it's the council that has to approve the new licenses, so.
Yeah.
I would suspect.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that'd be more
It'll give you
reasonable
some
than I think.
ability
if they
to
could-
ask some questions maybe,
Yeah.
and, you know, I just, for everybody's benefit, it'd be nice, give them an opportunity to talk about what their plans are too.
Right,
Some exposure.
right. Yeah, because if they were here, I think a lot of those questions
Yeah.
would be answered. And so, but yeah, I totally understand your point as well, that,
Especially a building like that, that is, I walked through it a couple times, there's a lot of work. I wish them well if they've got the ability to do the work to bring it. It'd be nice, I mean, it's gonna, I don't support tearing it down over the times the county had said to tear it down because it's got a really decent property tax assessment to it.
Change just in time.
hey.
I need to step out and go to my meeting.
Public Works building?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're on item 10. And here is the application.
Has he officially taken over yet, or do you want to wait till the next agenda item? So otherwise, I'll make the motion to approve.
I guess.
Yeah, before I leave, or
Just do it.
he's got it.
Well, I'm gonna-
Sue's not here.
There was no motion made. I would think you're okay to split now. If there was a motion on the floor, I think.
Then,
Okay,
Okay.
I agree.
Then
Yeah.
You would
withdraw.
Okay, thanks, Lee.
So,
Thanks, Lee.
I guess I'm down with making a motion to approve or seconding someone else and voting towards this. Just, I would hope that we can reach out to them, or they're watching tonight and can come to the council meeting before we officially approve this on our agenda that night, so.
You did make a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve, and I don't know, Shane, if you want some time to.
I'm just, where's 33?
It's the old, it's in front of the Rapids Inn Suites. We were just talking, then we were surprised that the county had actually sold it or cut a deal with somebody to occupy it.
Okay,
I
'cause-
didn't know that they were applying for, I just saw someone painting there last night, actually.
I saw a couple plumbing trucks in front, kind of wondering the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know what their plans are, and I had suggested that maybe they come to the we invite them to the council meeting if they weren't advised to be here, so they can maybe talk about their
Yeah,
plans.
kind of curious what they're looking to do.
Yeah.
And we only have 2 liquor licenses left, so if we give them a liquor license and they occupy it, we're down to 1. We don't have any clue on when they're opening, what their plans are, all that, so. But with that being said, I'll still make a motion to approve a Class B liquor license for, oh man, Pakeo Chai Liu Hung, sole proprietor for the premise located at 3310 8th Street South.
I'll second. Motion is second to approve the liquor license. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Number 11, audit of the bills for March 2019. I'll make a motion to approve check numbers 76056 through 76450. Manual check 66033 through 66050.
Shane, here's all the beverage operators.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve the bills. Are there any questions on the bills? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Oh, it's renewal time.
There was one. Item number 12, beverage operators licenses. Do we do the denial separate or?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Is there a number of reference or you by name?
I don't know if we need to say the name.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Application number.
Well, I'll make a motion to
Tim's got it.
approve the.
Oh, you look like you had something to say.
Oh.
No,
I'll make a motion to approve the beverage operator license applications that were recommended for approval.
the new and the renewals?
The new and the renewals.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve the beverage operator licenses that were so recommended for approval. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. And I'll make a motion to deny the application that was recommended as such.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to deny. Any discussion?
Who seconded it?
I did.
Bless you.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. 13, set next meeting date. Since I'm up in the air and the wind, I'll leave that up to you.
May 7th would be the next first Tuesday.
Except for, was there, Joyce had one item for special finance perhaps this month? Something that didn't make the agenda, We Energies, he sent it today. And was there another item out there? There might be related to the farmer's market piece that we talked about at our last meeting with that state grant. So if you wouldn't mind setting a tentative special meeting before council this month, at least for the We Energies item. Could be right before council. I can't remember who can get you the referral. I can't remember exactly what was.
Council 16th.
Yeah.
So should we set a tentative special meeting for like 5:30 on the 16th? Or will we need an hour?
I think by a half hour
5:30?
should be fine. If for some reason we think that there needs to be more time, we'll let you know.
Okay. Is that good with you, Shane?
Yep. What is it?
The 16th at 5:30.
I'm gonna put it in my phone.
And then May 7th actually will not work for me. But it might be a moot point.
I don't have anything, any Tuesday in May right now, so whatever would work for.
Would you be okay with the second Tuesday, Shane, you think? Or?
Second Tuesday is not good.
Okay. How about like the first?
Well, no,
one?
I can make second Tuesday.
You can?
Yeah.
So should we schedule the next regular meeting then for May 14th?
Oh, wait a minute, I think.
You know,
I have a commitment that.
should, maybe the new committee should just schedule.
Could schedule it on the night of the council.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because irregardless.
That
I
would
mean,
make more sense, because
Yeah, one thing is to determine that reorg.
At reorg, then we can
Yep.
set it.
Oh, then, okay,
Perfect.
that makes more sense, I guess, yeah. Maybe we can schedule our next one for like August.
Yes,
September,
exactly.
Yeah.
Budget meeting.
Well, this is that one just big meeting. you know.
Budget meeting.
One budget meeting, there you go. All right, then the last agenda item is adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and we are adjourned.